When it comes to creating hatred and division, the League Against Cruel Sports will go anywhere, do anything. In Northern Ireland, fox hunting is a cross-community triumph.
In this country, which has had so many difficulties, there's no prejudice. It is one of the few things that reaches out to all members of the community, all walks of life. And there's this misconception that it's a class thing. I'm a plastering contractor. All my friends, they're all working class people, and we all enjoy hunting.
This is creating hate where there's no need for hate. And it's hate based on ignorance of the countryside.
Here in Northern Ireland at the moment, we're trying to get away from a criminalised past. Why go into the future making new people criminals?
Dan hunts the Glens of Antrim foxhounds in the hills along Northern Ireland's northeast coast.
All our hunts would be by invitation, so farmers are concerned with the growing fox population. They've seen foxes, they're worried about them taking livestock. They have taken livestock, poultry, etc. And then we'd be contact the kennels, and we would be invited to come.
Now Lax has landed in Northern Ireland, wants to get rid of people like Dan, and has found the man to do it. John Blair from the centre-left Alliance Party.
My bill dealing with the hunting of wild mammals with dogs, where dogs are used for the kill, is not designed to target any community or any aspect of the wider country sports. It's intended solely to address a matter of great public opinion. It's consistent with the policies of my party, which have been there for some years, and also it addresses the fact that we are the only part of the United Kingdom not to have introduced legislation to deal with the issue of there being massive public opinion against the hunting of wild mammals with dogs, where dogs are used for the kill.
When I speak to a lot of the genuine conservationists, genuine animal lovers, they and I have so much in common. And indeed, John and I, in a lot of ways, have so much in common in care and concern for the countryside, the environmental issues, tree planting like we've done here, ponds, all of these things John and I have common cause on. And I would ask him to step back a little bit and to look at the interests of this minority. John and the Alliance Party claim to look after the interests of minorities. And they're very strong in this. Indeed, they have trashed some of the other political parties for their lack of care and concern for minorities. And yet, in a substantial minority within Northern Ireland and the south of Ireland, they're actually creating this division. And they're hammering people whose main interest in life could be hunting.
Albert runs the Irish Game Fair and publishes books and magazines about shooting and hunting in both Northern and Southern Ireland. What's strange is that John Blair has been to Albert's fairs and has a history of supporting country sports in Northern Ireland.
I'm very supportive of the wider country sports community and sector. I've worked with them extensively over the years, both in my previous employment in Deira Inland Fisheries and now as someone who represents a largely rural constituency. Over the years I have learned that there's a very close network of people, there's a great high degree of mutual support and understanding between many individuals who work in that sector. I know they've made great efforts in recent times especially to try and encourage more people, younger people, women, people from the disabled sector to get involved in country sports. It's a very important part of rural life and I fully understand that, fully support that. It's an important part of the rural economy, but I think most importantly of all, it's a way for people to come together, enjoy outdoor recreation, get outdoors and active in healthy outdoor activity. And therefore crucial to all of those involved and others who will be involved in the future.
Albert organised a carriage to take me and Jim Shannon MP across the Irish Game Fair site in 2018. Jim is surprised that John has stuck his political neck out to try to ban hunting and trail hunting in Northern Ireland.
My conversations with John in the past, for instance at Shane's Castle Game Fair, would be a fella who perhaps understood the role of country sports in the countryside, number one. Number two, would be aware of the depth of support there would be for country sports and in particular for hunting. As one who has probably shooting for maybe all my adult life, and have been able to encourage my son and ultimately my granddaughter to be involved in that, and because they want to be. I think that John maybe is pursuing something which I suspect is not necessarily in tandem with the viewpoints of the large majority of people in Northern Ireland. Therefore, has he thought it through? Well, only he can answer that.
Perhaps even more surprising is that John does not consider himself or his bill to be anti-hunting.
I am not, and I should not be quoted as someone who is in any way anti-hunting or anti-country sports. It's a great frustration to me that many people active in the sector, not all, but many, have deliberately misrepresented what I'm trying to do by consistently referring to it as a hunting ban. It is not that, never has been that, will not be that with my name on it. It is, plain and simple, an attempt to bring a private member's bill where dogs are used for the killing of a wild mammal for human entertainment.
We have put the whole of John Blair's interview on YouTube. There's a link in the description below. The matter goes back to a survey produced for LACS which claimed that 80% of Northern Ireland is opposed to hunting. John Blair followed it with his own consultation. Albert explains what went wrong.
Yes, well, John's own consultation, supposedly carried out under the rules of the Assembly, took as a starting point a survey carried out for the League Against Cruel Sports, and I do stress for the League Against Cruel Sports, by a UK company called Survation. Survation work on the basis of panels that one can invite oneself onto. They don't carry out research as I would have done in my academic research and my business research using random sampling or an approximation of it. You simply volunteer and then they fit you into a box. The reason why I would be concerned about the results of the Survation survey, which gave 80% of people in Northern Ireland against hunting, is that it contrasted very, very strongly with two other surveys in Belfast Live, which give different results. So if I had been John, starting off from that point of view, I would have looked at the results of all three, not used the 80% from Survation as the basis of my consultation. John then simply went on and, if you like, exacerbated that by using similarly biased questions, in my opinion biased questions, leading questions, which assumed that the 80% was right. That again was exacerbated by the fact that he didn't ask people replying to the consultation exercise to identify themselves by address, email, etc. So that meant that you could have an influx of information from outside of Northern Ireland. And indeed, I would say that happened because LACS did lobby their members throughout the world to reply to John's survey. I always used to say when I was teaching students, rubbish in, rubbish out. And, you know, I'm not blaming John because I would say that John would be relatively inexperienced at carrying out surveys. And I would say LACS are not inexperienced at carrying out surveys. And I think in some ways he has been misled by LACS. I feel sorry about this because I think John is a very genuine, hard-working MLA. I regard him as a friend. I regard that he and I have many issues that we would support in common. Tree planting, conservation, animal welfare, real animal welfare. I'm not talking about contrived animal welfare, the sort of welfare of LACS, Packham, etc. But countryside animal welfare, countryside and environmental concern. That's what we as country sports people are all about.
John denies this.
The public consultation that was done in relation to my private member's bill was consistent with Assembly practice and totally consistent with how consultations in similar private members' bills have been done throughout the years. It therefore puzzles me a bit that some people in the country sports sector honed in on the fact that there might have been those who completed the survey and related to the bill who hailed from outside of Northern Ireland. The critics have not addressed the fact that many of the people who are on their side were also from outside Northern Ireland.
Gary McCartney from the Countryside Alliance is horrified that LACS has landed in Belfast.
From what we've been seeing, there's a lot of similarities between the League Against Cruel Sports position and what John is saying. So we can see that John seems to be working very closely with the league in drafting lists and obviously the information provided, which is unfortunately one-sided. So yes, I can see that there is a strong link between the two. John has not engaged with Countryside Alliance or the hunting community to the best of our knowledge, and despite our correspondence to him, he has refused to respond. If John has concerns, come and speak with the hunting community. Let's discuss it and see the best way forward and how we can address that so that everybody is happy and we can move forward.
I have engaged with the hunting community regularly and often over the years. I do it all of the time. I work with local conservation trusts, I work with local anglers, I know many people individually who are involved in country sports, and I respect what they do.
Fox hunting here touches all ages.
Who's your favourite?
Causeway.
Causeway. Can you see Causeway? Is the Causeway there?
That's him right there.
And why is he your favourite?
Because he's named after the Giant's Causeway.
The proposed bill has already hit some political bumps. The Ulster Farmers Union is against it.
The farmers not only support us because they like hunting, but they realise that there's a huge financial interest, because one of the things that maybe hasn't come out is that Northern Ireland is a very horsey part of the world, and lots and lots of the very best young steeplechasers come from Northern Ireland. They start in the hunting field, they go on to pointing, and then they go to Doncaster sales, where I'm glad to say some of them make £200,000 or £300,000 a time.
The farmers of the North Antrim Hills claim the highest density of sheep in Europe. John says there are alternatives to vermin control with hounds, and he has mentioned fencing against foxes.
I'm saying clearly that all alternatives to measures being used currently, which are being used despite the massive public opinion against them, need to be carefully considered by the department, those involved in the practices, those involved in the sector, and I would be hopeful that the department will be supportive of those who need additional help to protect their farms, protect their property as we go forward, and these are conversations to be had in the future.
Well, John should come and try and fence it himself then and see how good he is at that. But you cannot control foxes in these areas properly without a pack of hounds. It's a tool, shooting, yeah, everything, but it's still, a pack of hounds is still needed, yeah. Our map would be roughly 150 square miles, mostly coastline and hill ground, yeah. We have a bit near the Giant's Causeway, which would be lowland.
It's not just Northern Ireland's farmers. The anglers aren't happy with John Blair either.
We've always taken the view with our colleagues in the Countryside Alliance and BASC and so forth that field sports stand or fall together, and we very much oppose all these moves to ban hunting and hunting with hounds and so forth, because apart from anything else, we feel it'll be just one domino after the other, and once fox hunting with hounds goes, something else will go, and eventually they'll come around to fishing. It will be only a matter of time. So our view is very definitely is we stand together and we support our colleagues in the hunting fraternity.
A badly worded ban on hunting with hounds may bring Northern Ireland in line with the rest of the UK, but it is out of step with Europe, and especially Southern Ireland. Will the bill gain support in Stormont? Jim Shannon reckons no.
My indication is that he will not gain support from Sinn Féin. The ones that I've talked to have told me that. The ones we've had discussions with, and we've had lots of discussions within the unionist community, he will garnish a lot of opposition, and within those who are small independent parties or independents, I think the issue will become difficult for him to gain statistical and mathematics support as well. So really, it's going nowhere.
John is certainly feeling the attacks on him. He is especially sensitive to the accusation that he is a lax member.
It's been suggested that I'm a member of the League Against Cruel Sports by people who could not know, by the way, one way or the other. And the simple thing for them to do before they make that statement is ask me. And I really wish people would behave fairly in that regard, because something I try to do in all aspects of my work. I may not always get it right, and I may not always be able to please all the people, but being fair and being honest is actually quite important to me. I've seen suggestions that I have a member. There have been more serious allegations than that. Some of them carefully nuanced, but I've watched very carefully. at comments that have been on social media, for example. And I would urge people to be very careful about what they suggest unless they know it to be fact. I mean, that's a very good and simple example. For example, is that those who say that I'm a member of the League Against Cruel Sports couldn't possibly know that I am, because I know that I'm not.
I wish John well in his future political career. I admire the hard work that he puts in on behalf of his constituents, and I would just urgently, very urgently, ask him to think again on the anti-hunting bill.
It's more important to address health. It's more important to address education. It's more important to address the roads. And it's definitely more important to address the economic issues. Those are priorities. I think he should do the same. With great respect to him, by the way, and I respect him greatly, I think this might be one what he's done his bit. Now just back off. Yeah.
I think one thing that the hunting community does have to put across is they have to educate people, the likes of John Blair and that, with our providing misinformation to the general public, and people believe it. So it's up to us to fight our corner and say and show people that there's no hidden agenda, we're not covering anything up, we're actually normal people and doing a service.
There are 12 registered packs of hounds in Northern Ireland and perhaps another 30 unregistered. John Blair, like Tony Blair before him, is trying, maybe accidentally, to drive a wedge into rural communities.
The great thing about hunting here is it's part of everyday life. I mean, in my old pack, we used to have a guy who was a docker. He was a foreman docker, so he used to arrange his shifts so he could come hunting. We had nurses who came hunting. It's a people sport here, and the very idea that it might be elitist is so wrong in Northern Ireland. When we had the last attempt to ban hunting here, the then Chief Constable went with me to see the then Secretary of State to explain that for him to try and stop hunting, particularly in the border counties, would turn people who were normally law-abiding, they would be lawbreakers because none of them were going to give up hunting. And we had a wonderful Secretary of State then, he was a Labour Secretary of State, and he said, don't worry, I'll talk to Downing Street, and of course the bill didn't apply to Northern Ireland. And my hope is that Northern Ireland will keep hunting away from politics. We've got enough politics in Northern Ireland.
Lax has helped write 2 bills to ban hunting with hounds, one for Scotland and one for England and Wales. Both are laws so unworkable that even Lax wants them changed for new laws. It looks like the Northern Irish process is going to be another waste of public money and parliamentary time.